many tanks does this guy have?
There's a version of this movie that should have worked. On paper, it sounds like exactly the kind of high-concept chaos action fans usually rally behind. A post-apocalyptic world, a lone thief, a mission to steal the Mona Lisa, Dave Bautista at the center, explosions, warlords. It all sounds ridiculous in the best possible way. And yet, Afterburn somehow turns that insanity into something strangely lifeless. Before we begin, would you please subscribe to my channel? Subscribing is free, but it's very important to me. Please subscribe for better analyzes and more videos. The premise wastes no time, revealing just how bizarre this world is. Solar flares wiped out global electronics 6 years ago, collapsing civilization and leaving the planet ruled by violent warlords. Governments fell, order vanished, and what survived wasn't hope, but collectors. In the opening sequence, we meet Jake, played by Dave Bautista, a legendary thief who breaks into a London vault to steal a priceless Stradivarius violin. It's a strong start. There's tension, style, and a sense of danger. That momentum lasts just long enough to convince you this movie might actually deliver. Then everything slows down. Jake is ambushed by a group of stylized thugs straight out of a Clockwork Orange fever dream, and for a brief moment, the film remembers it's supposed to be an action movie. Shotguns fire, grenades explode, faces meet walls. Bautista's physical presence finally takes center stage, and then the film retreats again. The reason for the violin, and later the Mona Lisa, is tied to King August, a warlord played by Samuel L. Jackson. August claims he's preserving humanity's cultural legacy by collecting priceless artifacts. In reality, he feels less like a visionary and more like a bored collector with power. The film never quite decides what kind of villain he's meant to be. Jake doesn't care about history or art. He cares about a sailboat. More specifically, he wants to fix it, load it with supplies, and disappear into tropical waters forever. King August pays him not with money, but with bags of boat parts. It's an arrangement that feels unnecessarily complicated even within the logic of this broken world, but the movie expects you to accept it without question. The central mission is where Afterburn truly leans into absurdity. Jake is tasked with stealing the Mona Lisa, which was hidden by the French government when the world collapsed. To do this, he must parachute under heavy fire into occupied France, connect with a resistance movement, solve cryptic clues, infiltrate a secret vault, and face off against a sadistic Russian warlord named Volkov, played by Christopher Hivju. That alone should be the entire movie, but it isn't. Inside the vault, alongside the Mona Lisa, are supplies desperately needed by French rebels led by Dreer, played by Olga Kurylenko, dressed like she walked out of an 80s action poster. There are also weapons of mass destruction that would give Volkov unlimited power. Jake, conveniently, is the only person in Europe capable of opening the vault. He does this by solving a single clue and crawling through an air duct. At this point, the film should either fully embrace its stupidity or ground itself in relentless action. It does neither. Afterburn is adapted from a Red 5 comic series by Scott Chitwood and Paul Enns, and it feels like a story that never fully transitioned from panels to motion. The ideas are big, the execution is timid. For a movie directed by J.J. Perry, a stunt coordinator turned filmmaker known for energetic action in Day Shift and The Killer's Game, the lack of action here is baffling. There are only a handful of fight scenes, 3 short hand-to-hand encounters and 1 vehicle chase involving a car and a tank. To be fair, these moments are well choreographed and edited. Perry knows how to stage action. The problem is that all of this combined barely fills 10 minutes of a 105-minute runtime. The rest of the film is spent watching Jake wander through abandoned locations, quietly preparing for a supposedly complex heist that the audience is barely allowed to understand. There's no tension, no ticking clock, no escalating threat. Jake doesn't even properly confront Volkov or his second in command, played by Daniel Bernhardt, until minutes before the credits roll. That absence of conflict drains the film of energy. Instead of feeling like a dangerous journey, Afterburn feels like a prolonged wait for something exciting to happen. Scenes play out without urgency. Dialogue explains rather than engages. The story keeps promising chaos but rarely delivers it. Visually, the film does have moments of interest. Bratislava and its surrounding abandoned factories, warehouses, and quarries stand in for France. These locations look good, and there's a certain charm in how the production repurposes them. The post-apocalyptic aesthetic clearly draws inspiration from the original Mad Max films and the wave of 80s knockoffs that followed. And that's part of the problem. Despite a modern budget, Afterburn often feels like a relic. Not in a nostalgic way, but in the way Steel Dawn or Cyborg felt like pale imitations of something better. The style is there, but the soul isn't. Bautista does what he can. He's imposing, quiet, and physically convincing. But the script gives him very little to work with emotionally or dramatically. This marks his second post-apocalyptic film after In the Lost Lands and his second post-apocalyptic heist after Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead. Unfortunately, this one lands at the bottom of that list. Afterburn aims for explosive fun, but settles into monotony. It wants to be outrageous, but it's afraid to commit. It wants to be action-packed, but it keeps holding back. The result is a film that feels strangely apologetic for its own premise. There are good ideas buried in here. There are moments that hint at a better version of this movie, but they're buried under slow pacing, weak structure, and a surprising lack of confidence. In the end, Afterburn isn't offensively bad. It's something worse for an action film. It's dull, and no amount of stolen art or post-apocalyptic swagger can survive that. Thanks for watching. Share your thoughts in the comments. This is where these kinds of films come to life. Until the next story, stay curious, be critical, keep your eyes on the screen, and remember, every film you haven't seen is a new film.